see, Carmen, you've been here like almost 2 months, right?
Yep.
But on your own for less than a week, right? Is that right? When did John leave? I think it
Yeah,
was over
John
the
left
weekend.
last Saturday, so it's just been me and my family here for not even a whole week. It's a
Right,
very
right.
different feel now without John and family.
Yeah, four fewer people.
Yes. Yeah, we got to the point of four people and no, seven people and four cats, plus Vivian outside was five. So it was a bit crowded. But it was fun. There was always somebody to chat with or scheme with or a kitten to play with. So
Yeah, the important things,
yeah,
kittens to play with. Yeah, yeah. So how was the first couple months?
it was well, it was challenging, but it was good. I was happy to be here for sure. It was a lot more watering than I had anticipated. I mean, I knew it was going to be a
Hmm.
lot of watering, but I don't think I knew
Hmm.
just how much watering and how much attention to the watering I would have to give. So that took a lot of time, and I struggle a bit bouncing between tasks. I like bouncing between tasks, but if I don't have,
Hmm.
a 1 to 2 hour chunk of just doing something, I can get a little bit scattered and have trouble getting back to the thing I was doing. So
Hmm.
having to pause to water was sometimes like, oh, yeah, and I would lose my place and have to kind of refocus. And then it was full of a bunch of different projects. So it was probably busier than what the normal weeks and months will be like. We
And put in the
cleaned up,
posts.
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
we put up the posts and we're going to finish
Mm.
those hopefully today. And cleaned the shed, cleaned the soil area, painted in the studio. What else did we do? We took a number of trips around to some of the local vendors so I could see where they were and what John was buying, which was kind of fun.
Mm.
And so lots of field trips. And then yeah, actual bonsai work, wiring, a little bit of pruning, but yeah,
Mhm.
mostly watering and moving things
Mostly
around the
watering.
yard. Yeah, it's kind
Yeah,
of
a lot of
intro stuff.
relocation too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. How to
Right,
run
right.
the fertilizer, what concentration, and then spraying. There was a lot of spraying right off the bat, and I need to get back into it now that it's
Hmm.
cooled back off.
Hmm. Yeah, John was sharing with you much of the administration of the yard,
Hmm.
which is sort of the handoff. You're sort of running around a track, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
John was giving you the baton. It helps to have as long a crossover as possible, I think, to
yeah. It
make
was
that
kind of just
smooth.
a information
And
dump.
right, right. And you had about a month and a half. I mean, in the ideal situation, I would prefer a year, but you have such a large background in plants and bonsai that about a month and a half seemed like we could make it work. And given your schedule with your family and whatnot, it was about the only thing that would work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's worked out
Yeah.
okay. I feel pretty confident being in the yard by myself, just a little bit behind in some of the work that needs to be done. But I think with bonsai, it's always a little bit of a game of catch up.
Hmm. Yeah, that is a bit ongoing. Yeah.
Mhm.
So is that what you would claim as your initial challenges? Would be this sense of balancing the work with the watering.
Yeah, I think so. And figuring
Yeah.
out how to time the schedule, because at the university I had a very different schedule with a lot of blocks of time marked out for meetings or volunteers or something like that. And here it's kind of a figure it out. So just figuring out what I want to do at what time of the day and how to best use the time when my brain is working best
Hmm.
has been a challenge. But I think I'm starting to get to
Hmm.
that point of knowing what works. No.
Yeah. And then I'm sure everything got bumped back by almost a week, given what we had in the last week here. This heat spike. It's just before John left over the weekend. It was a week before, when we had a temperature around here that I'd never seen before. It reached 112 in our backyard, and even higher in other parts of Portland. I heard a temperature of 116 somewhere recorded in the
Yeah.
Portland area, and I'd never seen anything like this. The highest I'd ever seen was in 2009, when my dad was helping me build the studio, and we found ourselves in movie theaters because nobody had AC back then. It was It was, everybody was sort of sweltering, even at 106.
I mean,
Um,
that's still pretty hot.
it
That's
was hot.
too
Yeah,
hot.
it
Still
was.
too
It
hot.
was. And the swamp coolers didn't help at all. I mean, if anybody had anything,
Oh,
it was a swamp cooler. And at those temperatures, it just made everything worse. So,
yeah.
so
It's
there
like
was,
you're purposefully making it like Michigan in the summer, which is
yeah.
probably not helpful.
Right, right, right. So we went from one movie and we kind of looked at each other and were like, yeah, let's just do another one. I think we did like 3 movies one day.
Oh,
And
wow.
we just stayed in the movie theater. Um, so Carmen and John were trading off hours. Tell us a bit about that. You were,
Yeah, so originally John was going to be at the farm all weekend, and I was like, "Oh, okay, this will be fine." He ended up uh, going out to the farm a couple times. His irrigation system wasn't working, and he was losing some of his younger stock. So poor John, he was back and forth a number of times. But it was usually one would cover the morning and then one would cover the afternoon. And then there was a bit of more overlap in the afternoon, evening. But we were out there probably every hour or hour and a half checking trees, and they were either ready for more water or just needed a cool off. So it was a lot of heat. But I think I mean, physically, John and I did pretty well. I didn't start to feel like kind of sick or dehydrated till that last day in the evening. I feel like I kind of gotten used to that temperature. And so I was
yeah.
out there and I did a little too much. And then I needed to take, like an extra hour to kind of recover and rehydrate. But it wasn't that bad.
Yeah. And it was three
Yeah.
days long.
Oh
The
gosh.
last day was the
Yes.
hottest. Yeah, it was
Yes.
remarkable. I thought you guys did an amazing job because I didn't see
Thank
a
you.
single burned leaf edge on a maple, or I mean, it was
Yay.
astonishing. And I'm saying this kind of as in sort of a retrospect because I actually wasn't here. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I was the brave one. I went to the coast.
And how hot was it there, Michael?
Yeah, yeah, that was another part of the story. So a friend of mine months in advance had booked a campsite at the coast, and I had agreed to go out to stay with him for well, a couple of weeks before the heat spell arrived, and then a few days before I realized I was going to be gone during this crazy heat spell. Yes, and being a total gentleman, I continued with my. I just said, "Yeah, that sounds great. Um, good luck, guys." No, we kept in good touch, but it was, oh my gosh, it was. It's only about 75, 80 miles away, but the temperature in Portland was 100 over 110, and it was 40 degrees cooler, 45 degrees cooler one day at the coast.
Mm.
It didn't go above 61 on the hottest day
Oh my.
at the coast. The sun didn't even come out. I was in 4 layers. I was cold,
Oh,
and
that sounds amazing.
it was the first time I'd ever felt temperature guilt. I was really, yeah, it was difficult coming home and talking to people about what I had experienced. But you guys did an amazing job in the
Thank
yard.
you. Well, I mean, if we had had the option, we probably would have gone to the coast as well. But
Yeah, we
it's
could have
one
brought
of
all the
those.
trees.
It's one of those things. It's like it's apprentice duty. Like when the weather's bad or something's happening, you're there. That's the job.
Well,
So
yes, the typhoons in Japan were no fun. I'm
yeah,
sure
that sounds
anybody.
much worse.
Yeah, well, we had about 4 or 5 a year, and you
Oh,
had to tie
geez.
everything down. And then there was the rain, and then the wind was great. You couldn't sleep, and so
Uh,
the next day, and it usually went on for about 2 days or so, when you had to prepare everything before it hit because you knew it was coming, and then you didn't sleep for 2 days, and then the last day you were putting everything back up, and then you wanted to sleep for a week. It
yeah,
was
no, I bet.
it was extraordinarily exhausting. Almost worse than shoveling the snow in the winter. That
Mm,
everybody would just take a half-hour nap at
yeah,
lunch after a morning of shoveling.
yeah, yeah. Snow shoveling is. I'm happy I won't have to do very much of that
Very
here.
crazy. Yeah, no, there's almost none. Yep.
Excellent,
Almost none.
excellent.
Yeah, different than your native territory of Michigan, correct?
Yes, last winter I
Yeah.
was working alone on a weekend that had 10 inches of snow. And so it was my job to manage all of the snow on the entryway, sidewalks, and stairs. And I probably walked 7 or 8 miles that day, going back and forth, shoveling and snow blowing. It was a day. It was a very long, tiring day of snow shoveling. So this, yeah, Portland, I'm excited for just, minimal snow. It's going to be a nice change.
Yeah. So at this time of year, we're doing this podcast in July. What's going on in the yard? What are you working on?
I'm catching up on a little bit of azalea work that has kind of gotten scooched off because, yeah, I feel like we're about a week behind now with that temperature change. We had a hemlock that seemed to be super strong. Still finishing up, getting a few wires there, thinning it out. And yeah, that one's strange because we noticed it was starting to grow again last week. And they don't usually do that after a trim, is that right?
No, that was really unusual. Yeah, of course, that was a tree that we're trimming a little sooner than usual because it is a little strong. If it's a little weak, we leave it a little longer. And for the most part, a lot of this trimming can be done, early fall is a good time to, if you only had one plant in the yard to work on.
Right. Yeah.
Ideal timing. But yeah.
I'm excited to see what that does. That'll be really curious.
Yeah, I'm wondering if these buds are going to burst. They've been swelling for a week now, and we're watching them nervously. So that it's a single flush plant, so should really do this.
Right.
Spruce, azo is really a single flush kind of conifer, and yet you can usually see a couple little buds burst through the summer and grow. So a very minimal amount of summer growth that you really can't count on. Many years it doesn't do any of it, but we have one in the yard that's going to grow a little bit, and I think it's probably due to the heat that you're talking about. It's just pushing some things, which is strange. I mean, a lot of heat will just shut things down, of course, but they're reacting to the heat in interesting ways. One thing that that we should probably share with everybody is the water that I wrote about in Bonsai Heresy, and had a lot of students try altering their water quality. Many people seem to have a problem more with higher alkaline water than the other way around, and so adding acid. And for years we were adding muriatic acid. Not years, I'm sorry. This was only a couple, 3 years or so. And I think it was John who was talking about, and we might have talked about this in another podcast, but we'll go through it again because we discovered another part of the puzzle here. But muriatic acid, which is sort of dirty hydrochloric acid, was, according to John, who had talked with a horticulturalist, this guy was pretty surprised that we're using that, thinking that we might get some chlorine burn. And we hadn't really seen anything in the yard, or at least didn't think we had any. And yet there were a couple of plants there in the yard that I thought had, just dried out a little too much or something and had a little bit of burn. So I hadn't really thought about it. But the vine maples and the Coreopsis had burned leaf edge for a couple of years. And this year, we're not seeing any of it. And about a year and a half ago, we changed over to acetic acid, which is the preferred acid if you're going to use any kind of acid at all to alter your water pH. That would be what you would use. And when I wrote Bonsai Heresy, I didn't know that. And so in Bonsai Heresy is an errata, which is using muriatic acid, but you shouldn't use that. Try acetic. So it seems like there are not many plants that seem to be, violently adverse to muriatic, but there are some sensitive ones. And in our yard, vine maples and winter hazel, Coreopsis, appeared to be much more sensitive to that. So anyway, just wanted to share that one.
Yeah, well, it seems like even with the heat, I mean, the Coreopsis has a little bit maybe of heat damage, but yeah, the maples are looking great. I haven't seen leaf burn on almost anything. So yeah, yay for vinegar.
Yay for vinegar, right. Now most of the leaf edge burn that you're going to see on a deciduous tree is related to not quite enough water on a hot day. That's primarily what is going to cause that.
Yeah.
Little bit of extra drying out.
Mhm.
We do have a fun watering hose though. John found a hose that is amazing. It's really quite a non-kink hose. I'm not sure if it's sold as that, but it's the only disadvantage is that it's bright yellow. It's kind of a chartreuse. It's really really a crazy color. Do I have the color right? Is that chartreuse?
Yeah,
Or anyway,
it's
it's
like
sort of a yellowish.
chartreuse, kind of lime green. It kind of fades to a more yellowish. I really like it. It's easy to see, and you won't trip on it so much. For
Mm.
those of us who are slightly trip inclined. Uh, but yeah, it's a Flexzilla hose, and it comes with a
Hmm.
what
Is that
is
what it's
that?
called?
What is that little doodad called? Oh, a swivel. It comes with a swivel right at the where the watering wand attaches,
Yeah.
so that when you are pulling the hose like down across the yard, or if you're watering with one hand, the hose doesn't twist. It kind of keeps the hose from twisting, or untwists it as you pull it,
Mm-hmm.
so that you don't
Mm-hmm.
end up with kinks, or
Mm-hmm.
kind of just a disaster hose when you're trying to roll it up.
Right,
So
right,
it's
right. Yeah,
it's
it's an
great.
amazing little feature. Yeah, I'm eager to see how it lasts on the gravel. It seems to be doing pretty well.
Yeah, so far so
Um,
good.
yeah. What else is going on? Let's see. We're trimming chochabai right now.
Yes, we're into
Mid
Chojubai.
midsummer chochabai trim, or late spring, I guess. We're a little
Mhm.
late because of what Carmen was talking about. We got delayed.
Yes, we got delayed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're into Chojubai trimming. There was a big wiring job probably within the first month. Was that a month ago now? It feels close still. Um, and there's yeah, another wiring project on my plate as well, which is good. I need to practice, and I enjoy wiring. So looking forward to really digging into that. Uh,
Yeah, we're just
yeah.
getting into more conifer wiring. At this time of year, you could do deciduous wiring. We're a little more careful about what conifers we might wire here, but
Mm-hmm.
in general, if you have a small yard, again, for you listeners, conifer wiring is, if you were to dial in the perfect time to wire, you'd probably wire in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
Winter is also okay, but we're running a professional yard here, and we're very busy. And just like in Japan, we were wiring pines when the needles were still coming out, which I do
Ooh,
not advise, but we had no time
right.
to be particular about that. Often a client needed a tree that week, and we had to finish it. Or there are lots
Mm-hmm.
of reasons one might get off schedule or off ideal.
Yeah, it seems like we were mostly doing, well, the first one I did was a juniper, this one's a juniper, and when I was coming for seasonals, it was mostly juniper and cedar that we were wiring in the summer. So is there are
Mm-hmm.
those
Mm-hmm.
generally more tolerant? And we're also just kind of doing fine wire. We're not doing any real
Right.
big bends.
Yeah, yeah. The bigger the bend, the later in the year you want to do it. Is sort of a
Hmm.
general general
Yeah,
idea. And light wiring you could do almost any time of year.
yeah.
Yeah. But some things to maybe be a little cautious about are your spruce, and that type of plant that you really want to be mostly
Hmm.
dormant if you're doing any major work.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. I was curious about the sheet that you shared with me a couple days ago. That was a revelation blah, blah, to me. The or way you were organizing your day, and then you said something about why it helps you.
Sure. Yeah,
If you'd share that.
I have ADHD, and this is really the only organizer that's ever worked well for me. I've tried planners and wall calendars, and this is just a single sheet. You can keep it on a clipboard. Um, at the top, it's got your day of the week, what's the date, and then a section for important reminders. So if you have like a dentist appointment, you just put it right on there with your time so you don't forget. Then it's got a section for morning, afternoon, and evening, so you can really put those priority tasks in those sections. And then at the very bottom, it's got a section titled "For Later," something along those lines, for any of those ideas that kind of pop into your head throughout the day that you need to get on paper so that you don't just go and do them. That's a problem that I have. I think of something and then I want to go do that instead of the thing that I'm in the middle of. And then like you're like,
Mhm.
oh, I need to buy this, so you can put that on there, or I need to think about this. And then anything you don't get done just kind of moves over to the next day, or back to the "for later" list. Yeah, the website, it's a woman, I think she's in Australia. It's called ADHD Actually, and you can download they've got a monthly printable as well, but I don't find that one as useful. The daily one is amazing though.
Mhm. Something about what you're saying here reminds me of the way potters work. So when I was in Japan, I got into a bit of trouble because I wasn't completing what I was doing. I was moving on to something else
Hmm.
before completing, and I got a chastisement
Mm.
for that. And I realized that what I was doing is I was working as a potter works, because you work in on sort of half-made work, and you do the next thing, and then you let it sit for a little while.
Hmm.
Usually to let it stiffen up a bit more with
Oh, right,
evaporation
yeah.
or something like that, as you're doing another part of the process or another body of work, and then you come back and you do step two, and so I remember explaining that to Suzuki and how big his eyes went. And he said, "Oh, that's really interesting. Okay, but here we don't do that."
Yeah. Right, yeah,
It was
yeah.
pretty. It was very interesting. It was funny. Yeah, just different kinds of work. Are enabled by different methodologies
Right. Yeah, I feel like here in the yard, I can
Mm.
be working on a couple trees at the same time. Like with the juniper that I need to wire, if there's any cleanup, I could, do cleanup one day, and then that's okay to sit for, a day or two before you actually go into wire it. It's not gonna like make the growth, the next flush come out differently, because there's a big difference between like cleaning it up and wiring. But like with an azalea or with something else that's going to flush, like black pine, when you're doing needle plucking, you can't really stop and then wait 3 days or 2 days and come back to finish it. That's something you kind of have to just do all in one sitting, or I feel like it can really kind of mess up the plant health and balance. So um,
Mm.
figuring
Yeah.
out how to do stuff in
Hmm.
sections is
Mm.
also helpful, because it does help me to bounce a certain amount between things. But I'll find myself watering accents and then being like, oh, this needs to be cleaned up. Oh, this is really pretty. Where do I put this? Or, oh, I want to make one that looks like this. And it's like, okay, go write it down. And then you come back to it when you have time to do accents, or when it's the
uh,
accent, when you do accents at the summer seasonal, or whatever. Um, so yeah, figuring
yeah,
out how
yeah.
to structure the day and how to prioritize the work is something I'm working on.
Yeah. Yeah, and if your time is limited and you feel like a tree needs to be trimmed, that week, rather than leaving it another month or something like that, and you also want to wire it, for instance, you might take that week to do the trim and finish the whole tree
Hmm.
with the trim, to then wire it later,
Hmm.
because as you're saying, you could imbalance a tree if you trim half of it and then you wire the part that you've trimmed,
Yeah.
and then it takes a month to get to the next part of of it.
Hmm.
Then the tree will take the hint. It's like, oh, okay, I'm supposed to kill off that part.
Right.
And so if
That's
you
not
have
what
to
we're looking
segment,
for. Yeah.
yeah, right. If you have to segment the work, and you have a really busy life, and you're not a bonsai apprentice like Carmen, who is focusing on bonsai, but if you have a really busy life like that and you need to segment, then divide it into tasks that can be completed in one session.
Hmm. Yeah, John and I did that with a couple of the azaleas that came back from the Japanese
Right,
garden.
right,
We did the full cleanup and prune the same, within a couple days,
right.
and then uh, we fell into the giant heat spell. So any little bit of, they don't need much wire, but the little bits of wire that will go on them is going to wait till we get around to it. Or till I get around to it. John's gone now.
Yeah, you need to call them. We have a few volunteers in the yard now too, though.
Yes, we do.
Involved. Yeah, and you haven't yet met Masaki.
Yes, I'm excited to meet him and have some help.
Yeah, he's been a great asset to the Portland Japanese Garden Bonsai Terrace. So he started as a volunteer there as a docent, and then he was just recently hired.
Oh, excellent. I didn't realize he was on staff. Cool.
Yeah. Actually, I was told every department wanted him, and the gardening department got lucky. Highly skilled retirees are sought after in some areas. For sure.
Well, yeah, that's funny because Jack Sustick is back at University of Michigan doing some coverage for me. And he's retired, but he's coming down a couple days a week to help with the trees there. So it's
right.
Highly skilled retired. Very helpful.
So I wanted to ask you for your entry report, what would it say? So I also have an exit thesis for apprentices, and this is sort of like graduate school. Theses take forever, and sometimes they never arrive. In fact, I think I've only gotten one so far. Keep reminding past apprentices to send in their exit thesis. But your entry thesis is sort of where you are at this moment. What are you thinking about with bonsai? What are your goals? And then the exit thesis might be a bit different, as you discover new things or your goals begin to shift. But what would because you haven't handed in yet, but I know you've been thinking about it because we've been
I have an outline in front of me. Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. What do you have down there?
So my ultimate goals being here is mostly to learn how to is to improve my wiring, kind of nail down seasonal work, what happens when, because I know most of it, but there's some corrections. Having learned mostly on my own or with volunteers, there's some things that were maybe incorrect that need some fixing. But I'd really like to learn how to design raw stock. I've never really done that. I'm mostly just been maintaining trees. So getting some actual design work under my belt would be great.
We'll start shortly and we will not stop.
Yay. So doing some of that. Ultimately, some of my goals, when moving back to Michigan, supposing I move back to Michigan, planning it right now, but I would like to use some North American natives, but not conifers, except because it seems like most people are already, conifers in the United States are they're done. A lot of people are doing them. So I'd like to use some of the deciduous stuff, serviceberry, witch hazel, sumac, and kind of go with some more ephemeral, feminine looking plants. I do want to try eastern white pine. I found a tree that had a witch's broom with some more compact growth. And so I harvested a couple of seedlings that I think are the same genetic, but I'm also going to attempt at some point to get some cuttings or something, or cones or something from that tree to figure out how to propagate it. But I think it'd be really neat to do a white pine with some more compact growth, because those aren't really done because they're so wispy and straight. And then we have got a lot of spring ephemerals back east, and I'd love to use some of those in Kusumono or other bonsai accents, and kind of bring the Midwest feel of like springtime, vernal pools, some of those really pretty plants.
Vernal pools.
Yes.
What's a vernal pool?
a vernal pool, it's kind of a wet woodland, and in the spring when there's lots of rain and snow melt, there's in the lower portions of that forest, they fill with water. So salamanders and frogs meet up there, and there's often large trees growing in them as well with little, and they form like, there's some soil at the base of the tree, and so they form like a little island. So there's like a big tree with some ferns and moss and water all around it, which is kind of a really neat feel. I haven't really seen that anywhere else, so I'd like to kind of try and recreate that feeling, maybe not actually, using water, but giving that kind of islandy feel with some springtime flowers.
Right. And last time we spoke, you had developed your purple pot idea. Purple Pot Society. What was
The
it?
Purple Pot Society. So yeah, Jonas actually coined that term. And I was chatting with another woman who reached out to me saying she really liked the name and wanted to go forward with creating some kind of women's bonsai society. And so that's kind of in the works of figuring out how we would do that. But it's pretty exciting. I'm really interested in getting more women and young people into bonsai, because there still is that gender disparity. So, and I found a lot of women who like to do bonsai. There's just not really, the time or the money or, whatever else is happening in their lives. So trying to encourage it and teach in a place that feels comfortable. So yeah, that's definitely on my list of things to figure out how to do.
Do you think comfort is a part of that?
I think so, particularly with the gender disparity. It's hard to be in a place where you're the only one. And I think the Portland Bonsai Society of Portland is different. There's a lot of women in that club, but there's a lot of other clubs, particularly in the Midwest, that are predominantly men. And so if you're a young woman, it can sometimes feel a little bit like, oh, well, I don't really fit here, which can be discouraging. Or unfortunately, sometimes there is some blatant sexism that does happen, or harassment. So there's something about creating a more inclusive, accessible place for women. And I mean, ultimately, the goal is not to have people separated by gender, but at this moment, it's more about getting women into the hobby, and then hopefully it won't matter in 5, 10, 20, 50, 100 years. And it'll all just be equal. It'll just be equal.
Right. Good goal.
Thank you.
Good goal.
Yes.
Good goal.
Yeah, so yeah, the woman who reached out to me, her name is Samantha Tolv, and she just wrote an article for ABS about women in bonsai. So I'm hoping to get her on the podcast. And then I've been chatting with Victrina Ridgway. She's doing a really cool project for the national exhibition this year, a whole display composed by different women artists, the tree, the stand, the accent, I think the pot too. I'd love to get her on here as well. So there's some women doing some research into this and creating some really cool art. I'd love to elevate that to another level, get people paying attention.
Now we're going. Okay.
Yes, it's happening. It's happening.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, I'm already looking forward to your exit thesis.
Yes, it will be something.
All right. So part of this exit thesis, though, which so far no apprentice has done, is a thesis show. So that's sort of in the
I'll have to get some trees.
Okay, right. Yeah, and that's the thing that might take a little while to actually happen. Yeah. It won't happen when you leave. Yeah.
Right. But it will happen.
But it will happen.
It will happen.
Right.
Yeah,
All
one of
right.
the other things, as far as maybe this isn't just, women in bonsai, but just bonsai in general. In Japan, I saw a lot more variety in pots and pot color. So that's kind of where, Jonas coined the Purple Pot Society, because I have a fascination with purple pots, but I kind of want to push some boundaries of like, okay, here's traditional bonsai and here's traditional bonsai and something that's a little bit different, either style or pot or how it's displayed, something like that. But trying to keep,
Mhm.
the intention of bonsai there and not be, I'm not looking at glittery pots yet, but
Yet.
not to be like, but allowing that other perspective of like, I don't know, maybe hyper feminine that, most people would be like,
Hmm.
I don't know, but maybe it's a thing. So
Hmm.
getting to explore that.
Yeah, exploration is a big part of it.
Mhm.
If you don't give yourself the opportunity to fail, um, you don't develop those ideas. They
Mhm.
stay in a closet somewhere. Um,
Yeah.
that's that there's really probably two features of the creative or the artistic direction. One is leisure. You need leisure to have the gestation time for
Mhm.
ideas, and the other is the courage to fail,
Mhm.
and to know that probably the majority of your experiments or works, for if you're a scientist, you call it an experiment. If you're
Mhm.
if you're an artist, you call it a work. But a work is an experiment, and
Mhm.
it leads to the next, slightly more edified work,
Mhm.
and the majority of them will fail.
Mhm.
If you're doing city art, if you're being commissioned to do something, failing isn't much of an option.
Right.
And it's one of the reasons that city art is criticized so heavily by those who consider themselves to be artists,
Mhm.
is because there's some of that juicy, on the something that has the opportunity to fail and yet somehow survived. There's some quality of creative beauty in that, but that, as they say, ladies and gentlemen, is a different story.
Well, considering that I, muted myself for the first 20 minutes of our podcast here, I think I'm pretty used to failing.
Oh.
Oh,
Oh no,
yes.
that was necessary because it was a very dry beginning. It was like a
Yes.
dry start. Yeah.
Practice run.
Right. Well, thanks for sharing your beginnings here,
Mhm.
Carmen, and we'll definitely wrap up with another podcast at some point
Oh, yeah.
about your apprenticeship, but we'll be talking about other things in the middle,
Sounds
in the
good.
muddle.
In
There's
the
always a
middle of the
muddle.
muddle.
The muddles are often the more interesting parts of
I love a good
conversations.
muddle. Yeah.
You love a good muddle? Okay,
Uh-huh.
sounds good. That sounds like
Yeah.
a room with a view, right? That was
Yeah.
there was a muddle that Mr. Emerson was always talking about. Oh, you're in a muddle. And the person looks at him shocked. Anyway, E.M. Forster, go and read it. It's great stuff. Okay. Thank you, Carmen.
You're welcome. Time to go check water.
All right. Sounds
All
good.
right.
Cheerio.
Bye.
Bye.
The music on today's podcast was brought to you by the fine folks at Blue Dot Sessions. Check them out at www.sessions.blue.
Yeah. You might actually have to take out some of these long pauses that don't go anywhere.
That's fine. I can do that. Or
And
I'll
I
just
think in
use
the
them as the
beginning,
intro.
yeah,